Hey folks, guns, gear, on-target training out here in Oregon. Before we get started, if you enjoy our content, please like, subscribe, and share. We're getting very close to the 100,000 subscriber mark, and I need your help and the help of your friends and family to get us to that point. It means so much to me if you would support us. All right. Today we're going to be talking about Glock pistols. In this case, this is the Glock 45, which is a really interesting pistol. It has a full-size frame, so the frame is essentially what you would get with a Glock 17. However, the slide is the length of the Glock 19. In addition, this particular version is set up with the cut in the slide, so this is the Glock MOS version. It's set up with the cut in the slide, allowing you to attach a red dot if that's something you want to do. Red dots have a lot of applications, mixed feelings for some people about them. And my personal feeling is red dots are really great and they help develop a different skill set, and it's important to understand their applications and how to use them because many people have them on pistols these days. They're really fantastic on the range and they're really fantastic at distance. However, for most defensive applications involving a handgun, that happens, somewhere between 3 to 7 yards. And in that specific instance, I don't think a red dot gives you a ton of advantage. And frankly, for an old guy like me who's been running iron sights for so long, the training curve that I had to go through in using a red dot means that I'm a little slower on the dot than I am when I just use sights. And that's because for 30 plus years, I've been working hard on iron sights. Let's get into the Glock right now. So one of the nice things about the Glock setup here is they have front and rear serrations. Now, why is that important? Well, some people like to press check from up front, right? They like to come across, and because of my handicap, it doesn't look particularly sexy, but they like to do that. I personally don't want my hand near the muzzle, but that's a personal decision for shooters. So anyway, have the serrations there, have the serrations on the rear. When I press check, I prefer come across the top, simply bring it back enough that I can inspect and see brass in there. That's just me keeping my hand away. I was not injured in a shooting accident. I was born missing a thumb. And as a result, I had to have surgery. I have fused bones in my hand from the birth defect and in my actual forearm, meaning I have very, very limited mobility. So if you look at this hand and you say, well, that guy must have shot himself, I have not done that and I don't plan to do that. And one of the reasons I don't plan to do that is I don't put my hand near the muzzle of the firearm at any time. That's just me. I digress slightly. So the other thing you'll note about the Gen 5 version is there are no finger grooves. Some people really like the finger grooves. I never like the finger grooves because if you're going for a presentation, a quick presentation from the holster, and sure, it doesn't matter where your fingers ultimately are, if they're in one of those scallops or not, you can still fire the gun, but I just prefer to be able to go down as I'm getting that firing grip on the gun, and my fingers just lay wherever they want. You'll note this frame, the bottom here is scalloped, almost flared in a way, and that does help when it comes to magazine changes, right? You just have that larger area to get a mag up and in, and it's an improvement over the older version Glocks that did not have that. Is that a deal breaker? I don't think so. Went to the range, put approximately 360 rounds through the gun in fairly short order. I had, I think, 14 or 15 mags loaded. 13 of them were 17-round magazines, and I had 2 or 3 that were 19-round magazines. And so I shot, I don't know, 150 rounds just in a inside in a container sort of setup that is at our range. And flawless. No malfunctions, no stoppages, just great. Chugged through a bunch of it. Went outside, went shot some steel. Again, no stoppages or malfunctions of any kind. I did not clean the gun. I simply got the gun. It was new. Went out to the range. No lube, nothing. Like literally what you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to clean the gun before you go shoot it. I just want to say, okay, how is this gun going to perform right out of the box and go shoot it? So the accuracy was dead on. I mean, it's very, very solid, very respectable. It does have a 5.5 pound trigger connector, and that for me makes it a little more difficult to be precise because, right, that extra weight. But I've shot Glocks so much that I do know approximately where that wall is right before that. So we're going to just ghost this for you. So again, you get a fair amount of heavy take up to this point, and right here, then there you can feel the wall and then break. Short reset, out to about there, not as short as some, and it doesn't quite reset as fast as I would like, not as fast as some of my Smith & Wesson M&Ps, but still, like out of the box, stock gun, ready to go. It's really, really nice. So most of the shooting I did was 10 yards and in. I shot dot torture and was doing great on the first half of the drill, and then I actually shot that at the very end of the shooting session, and I was getting a little fatigued mentally, and some of my groups started opening up, and that was on me. I'll post it for you. Again, it was not the best I've ever shot, but I thought I did okay considering brand new gun, don't know it. And also I'm using the stock Glock, what I call the sight holders. These plastic sights, I mean, they work, they're okay, but ultimately what most people do who are serious about their handguns is they're going to replace these plastic sights with something that is a little more substantial. So I'll probably go with a set of Trigicon or something like that, some night sights, suppressor height night sights specifically. So if I want to run a red dot on that, I'll be able to still use iron sights with my red dot, which I think is very, very important. The gun comes with 4 mounting plates. So 4 different mounting plates allowing you to use a bunch of the popular red dots that are out there right now. Comes with 3 magazines. Depending on what state you live in, they're going to be 17 or they're going to be 10 round capacity. So again, I like, and my expectation is with any pistol I buy, I want a minimum of 3 magazines. And for me, like 1 in the gun, 2 on your belt. Seems like a pretty basic setup. The gun also comes with the back straps that Glock has. These back straps allow people with much larger hands than mine to sort of change the ergonomics and fatten up the grip a little bit. I'm just shooting the gun as it came out of the box and it feels fine. I have to say that one of the reasons that I like Glocks is, number one, their simplicity. There aren't a lot of parts. There's not a lot of complexity to it. 2, reliability. As I said, 360 rounds, 115, 135, 124, 147 grain bullets. Some were brand new, factory new. Some were factory reloads. It fed everything. Everything. I had some magazines where I just had a hodgepodge of sort of range scrounge ammo. So ammo that I found is just, you know, whenever I'm on the range, if I find a 9mm round, I pick it up, I throw it in a bin. I loaded a magazine of that range scrounge stuff, functioned fine. No issues whatsoever, 100% reliable. So that's one of the other issues I like. I think the 3rd or 4th point I would say is that because of the low bore axis, the distance between where the bore is and where my hand is, right, I'm way up in the tang here of the gun, because of that low, there's very, very modest felt recoil. Yes, it's a 9mm. Yes, 9mm is generally a very soft shooting load. But if you shoot a gun that has a much higher bore axis, especially if you're handicapped like I am, and you don't have 2 full hands to completely grip the gun, that low bore axis and the ergonomics of the Glock and the grip angle of the Glock actually makes it a very, very soft shooting pistol. So I'll keep working it. We're going to keep shooting it. We'll give you an update here when we get to 1,000 rounds. I'm going to really work, once I replace the sights, I'm just going to work on shooting this gun pretty much exclusively for a few months and see if I can improve my skills. One of the challenges, obviously, if you have different firearms and you're an instructor and you're teaching different people, is you sort of have to be proficient with all of them. And it does take a while. If I'm just shooting my M&Ps, for example, my Smith & Wesson M&Ps, which I normally shoot, and then I go to a Glock, it takes me a little bit of time, not to get the sights on target. That's not the problem. It's just, it's a different trigger and different recoil impulse. And so it takes a little bit of time. So for me, you got to go out, you got to put about 1,000 rounds on a particular pistol before, in my mind, you're going to have some level of proficiency. And these are 1,000 rounds of very intentional practice, not just throwing rounds downrange, not hitting anything, but actually really working on the fundamentals. Well, folks, really appreciate you watching. Finally, and as always, stay safe.